Did you know that on average, people spend 75 hours planning out their dream vacations? That is a lot of time to do a lot of research. Well, if you join me inside today's episode where I speak to my guest, Shantha Mony, she is a travel concierge. We can find out lots of tips and tricks that will help you along the way. Check us on inside. Welcome to the Fabulous at 50 podcast, where we are changing the aging narrative. I'm your host, Joanne Newduck, and I'm thrilled to bring you stories that matter and celebrate your place in the world. As an advocate for lifelong learning, health, and women's empowerment, I believe it's never too late to live the life you've always imagined. Through lively and informative interviews with inspiring guests, we'll explore a wide range of topics relevant to our global sisterhood of vibrant, inquiring women just like you. Join me for today's episode and let's start changing the aging narrative together. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. We are talking all about travel. What are trends? What can you be doing? And just the world has opened up, and to my understanding, people are going in droves to destinations and dream destinations. And I get to welcome my guest, Shantha Mony. I love that name. You have the best name ever. Welcome, Shantha.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you so much for having me with you today.
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. Now, just hold on for 1 second, then we're going to dive into our conversation. I just want to read just a little bit about who you are. Shantha Mony is a speaker, author, and travel concierge extraordinaire. She is the CEO and co-owner of Luxury Destinations Concierge, a travel concierge company specializing in small ship cruising and expedition travel. I love this term, travel concierge versus travel agent. So why don't we kick off the conversation first with what's the difference? What does that mean?
What we pride ourselves in, Joanne, is of being a concierge service. We take care of our clients from the time they leave home till the time they get back. So
Mm-hmm.
whether we are, we do all the planning before you go, but also while you're traveling. I've had clients in Europe, they thinks, they have a question or they want to add on something, wherever they may be. We are there for them, whatever time. Middle of the
Yeah,
night for us, which could be daytime for them, but we are there for them. So that's what we pride ourselves in, being a concierge.
that makes a huge difference. Like, I know why I think that would be important, but I'm curious as to like why is that important as opposed to lots of times people just book their own travel, which I personally is like I do that. I'm going to go see my
Mhm.
family. I just book a flight. But when we take a trip, there are so many more pieces. Like, what is the advantage to having a
Yeah, the,
concierge?
the advantage of doing it with somebody who you can trust and know and who's been there, or, has connections for where you're going to. If anything should happen, we've had situations where we've heard of situations where people go and the hotel is not exactly what they thought it was going to be,
Mm,
because things are not always what they appear on the web, right? Or it
absolutely.
may be something that they had an issue where they couldn't get that resolved, or didn't know how to get it resolved. So we are there for them. So that's what we are there for. Just holding their hands and walking through with them their journey, not physically, but we are there with them all the
Yeah,
time.
absolutely. Well, my mind goes back to when the world turned upside down. I had a daughter that was going to school and she was doing a semester abroad. And suddenly it was like we had to get her home. I like, thank goodness I had a friend who was a travel agent and she was the one. Like, I would have been just on hold for hours and hours because you got used to have a little bit of the back door, right? Like the back office way of getting things done, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, Shantha, you and I met a few months ago, and I was at a wonderful business retreat, and I love getting to know you, and I love some of the stories that you were sharing, and you have such a wealth of information. I'm just curious. First, how did you get into this business? You've been in it for almost a couple decades, correct?
Yeah,
What?
close to a couple of decades. We started our business 17 years ago. But I think my love for travel grew right from the time when I was growing up.
Yeah.
We grew up in India. My dad, we didn't really get to travel till after his retirement age when we really had the money and the things to be able to do that. So
Hmm.
we did a lot of um, domestic travel, but he did take us to a couple of international travel as well. So that was a
Oh,
joy
nice.
just to be able to spend time as a family doing that. So when I graduated, I knew that wanted to do something in the travel industry. So I took some courses, went to did some certifications, and when we first started our business, my desire was just to help families, because I
Mm,
think a lot of families don't know or don't know that it can be done.
hmm.
And really, it makes such a difference when you travel with your children while they're young. A lot of
Hmm.
people are hesitant to do that, but it just opens up the world to them, and they get so much out of just seeing that the world outside their own little bubble, right? And
Absolutely.
and it really opens, depending on where you're going to, it really opens up to help to for them to realize how blessed they are.
So I must admit, I am the most grateful. Like I truly feel in gratitude in my heart when I have traveled and then returned to Canada. I'm grateful for the opportunity to travel and be welcomed around the world. But when I return to my own country and just the blessings that we have here, it's quite incredible. So I
Hmm.
want to check with you, kind of pick your brain. Can you think,
Yeah.
and I'm putting you on the spot here, I didn't give you any warning here. Can you give us maybe 3 to 5 absolute must know tips to travel?
Okay. Um, One of the most important things that when you're thinking of traveling, I'm talking more about the international travel here.
Yes,
We'll
of
touch
course.
on that, and then we'll go
Not so
back to
much
the.
domestic, just going to go see a friend. We're talking you're leaving your country, whether you're leaving from, you're in the States, I'm in Canada right now. So leaving North America, going off on some cool adventure trip.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that, it's always good to have your passport. Get a passport, get it updated, make sure it's current, because you never know when you're going to need it. A lot of
Mm.
people just try to get their passport. Okay, I got my trip and now I'm going to go and get my passport. Sometimes it's too late to do that,
It can
especially
be,
now.
there's long lines,
There's
right?
long
So get
waiting
your
lines
passport before you even book a trip. And
before you pick.
and is there a set rule? I've heard that you need to make sure that the expiry date is a minimum of 6 months off. Like you can have a
Yes.
valid passport, but it expires in 2 months and they won't let you in a country.
They want it's 6 months
That's true.
after you return to your the home country. So it's not in 6 months from your travel date. So you could be traveling for a month, but it has to be 6 months from your return to the country date.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's number one, all
that's
about
one.
passports.
The other thing when we're talking about passport, make sure you have at least three blank pages. And depending if you're going to a multi-country destination which has multi-countries, you probably need a lot more than that. um, they always want you to make sure that you have enough blank pages, because if your passport gets full and they don't have a place to stamp, that's going to be an issue there.
Do they even
So
stamp passports? Because I must admit, I have traveled a lot and I'm kind of sad that I don't even have like some stamps on some of them. Some of them, it's all electronic now and you don't even get that fun stamp.
yeah, especially if you're going, there are a lot of them don't have those stamps, but usually
Okay.
most of the times when you enter, say if you're going to Europe, for example, you'll get the stamp when you arrive into whichever country you're going to. But then when you're going within Europe, you always don't get stamps in each of the
That's
countries
true.
because right, you don't
That's
need
true
it.
because it's opened up.
So I opened up there, so you really don't need that. But the
Okay.
main thing is make sure you have a passport.
Okay.
I've come across a situation where somebody needed to travel out of the country due to a family emergency, and they didn't have a passport. So that kind of
Okay.
really, hinders them from wanting to be able to do what they want to do. So that's my
Excellent.
one tip about the passports.
Awesome. Okay. Number two. What else
Number
is really
two
important?
is when you're traveling, make sure you do things or be aware of the situation around you, just as you would be aware of any situation when you're traveling in a city here. Just because you're elsewhere, sometimes we tend to forget, we tend to be lax, or we may do
Hmm.
things that we don't usually do around here because sometimes you hear a lot about the crime in different
Yeah.
places, and that it's true in any city, even over here. There's crime in the cities, but you always got to be aware of your surroundings, but also be responsible.
Mm,
Don't do things that you wouldn't normally do in your hometown or in a city domestically.
right. Yeah.
Just because you're in an international country and you think it's all safe, don't go out in the middle of the night all on your own and try to hang out. And that's asking for trouble. So
It's
just be
true.
aware of your surroundings and make sure that you stay safe.
Absolutely. It's not about being scared, but it's being about being aware and not doing, yeah. Because you said it seems so romantic. I'm going to go for this walk and the pretty lights. But if you're not aware of the area you're in, excellent. What else is a really good tip?
The other good tip, and this is one of my safety tips, and I'll share this with you, is since we're talking about safety, is when you go out, always take a business card from the hotel,
You're
right?
so
So that
smart.
when you're in a country where you don't, maybe people don't understand you, take the business card from them. And also when you get into a taxi or Uber, that's even over here, you can do that wherever you go. Make sure you take a picture of that. And if you need to send it to somebody just to make sure that you're safe, that's a really good safety tip.
Oh,
Do that.
wow.
And, you can even leave it with somebody else that, you're going to go there, you're going on this trip, you're going to do this, and here's my cab or whoever that if you're taking a tour and if you organize it with someone that's organizing it for you. I'm not talking about those kind of situations. It's just a situation where you either have to get an Uber or a taxi and you're just getting into an unknown. Just make
Yeah.
sure you
Well,
that.
sometimes even, I want to touch base on kind of what you organize here with the small cruise ships and the expedition type travel and adventures. But I love that tip. Like the idea of just take the business card because I've known people where they've gone out and then they could not get their taxi driver to understand what they were saying, where they
Right.
wanted to go. They didn't know what location. They literally just
Hmm.
went, I am going off exploring this city. Now they were
Yeah.
totally traveling on their own. So I really love that trip or
Yeah.
that tip for the trip. Um, so let's touch base on what you specialize in, which is small. So explain what you mean by small ship. We all think of these cruise ships. There's like, I think of, I don't know, Carnival, and there's thousands of people hanging off the edges. Tell me more about what you organize.
Yeah, yeah. There's a channel for everything, right? There are people who love the large ships, and we help them with that. Like the Royal Caribbean is coming out with 7,000 passengers on their ship. It's like a mini city,
That's
holding
wild.
city, right? But
Yeah,
we also
yeah.
love working with our clients, working with smaller ships, which are like 300 passengers, or the
Okay.
river cruise ships, which are like 150 to 190 passengers,
Those sound
creating more.
amazing.
Yeah, that's more of an intimate experience. You get to know the staff gets to know you, and most of those
Mhm.
ships you have a high staff to guest ratio. So you get that personal attention. And that's the thing that the clients love. They love the exclusiveness, they love the attention that they get, and they love that they're able to interact with the rest of the guests as well as with the crew. So that's
Mhm.
where our small ship cruising comes, and it could be an expedition cruise, or it could just be one of the river cruises, or even just one of the smaller luxury cruise lines.
Yeah. So river cruises honestly
Mhm.
fascinate me. They look phenomenal going along the river and you're seeing all these, I don't know, I'm seeing the ones in Europe and there's little castles on the side. So explain to me how that works. So you're going, does it cruise at night and then during the day you have like a little port, you get out and do whatever excursions that day? Is that how that works?
Yeah, yeah. I love this saying that one of the cruise lines has put that one as a tagline kind of saying. It says, ocean cruises take you to the cities, which is true. You go sailing on the ocean and you dock
Yeah.
at the city. But the river cruises take you through the cities
Oh, of
because all
course.
the rivers are really flowing through the cities and the towns.
True.
So
Right
when you're
through the
cruising
city.
down, yeah, so they really take you through the city. So typically what they usually do is, unless they have an overnight port where they're staying overnight, usually they will sail at night. And then you could have one or two ports during the day, depending on the distance that they have. So you really dock right when you're going on a river cruise, you can see this land on both sides. So it's not like
Yeah.
you've seen a big vast body of water.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
kind of makes it very interesting just as you're sailing by, looking at the life over there, the towns, people standing there and waving to you. And so and then you dock right to the port at the port where you just have to get off and walk right into town.
That's a bonus because some of the big cruises, and there are bonuses for the big cruises, but the big cruise, you're queuing up to then take their little, I don't know, tender back and
Yep.
forth,
Hmm.
and you just have a set amount of time. So with the river cruise, you can tell I want to go on one of these at some point. With the river cruises, I assume you have breakfast on the boat, maybe during the day you leave and lunch out there, and then do you have dinner in on the land, or do you come back to the boat for dinner, or both and?
No, all your meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner is on the ship.
Oh, okay.
Unless they have an excursion. Sometimes they have an excursion where they have dinner at a restaurant or at a venue
Okay.
on land. But most of the time, you're back on the ship for that. All your drinks during lunches and dinner. Now, I'm talking about not all cruise lines are the same,
Yeah.
but I'm talking about the really good ones that we work with. They usually have their all the drinks during lunches and dinner are included. One of the cruise lines has a happy hour before dinner. So you have drinks
Nice.
during that time. So that's
Nice.
included. But the beauty of it is you have all your shore excursions are included. So they could have three different types of excursions. And you can take part in one of them. You can, if you have time, you can take part in two of them. And so everything is included. So pretty much once you pay for a river cruise, again, I got to put this preface that all cruise lines are not the same, but the really good ones usually have everything included. So once you pay
Lovely.
for that, other than having to pay for, maybe a spa treatment or an outside the dinner time, you want to have a cocktail some other time, you know, you really can put your wallet away and you know what to expect. You don't have to spend
Yeah.
anything more. So it's kind of like that's what people love. They don't want to be, pay for the cruise and then come back home with a
Surprises.
big bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking, my mind's churning that I like this concept for maybe a reunion. Maybe there's a family reunion, or if you're a business, like what a great way where everything's kind of taken care of there. So, but I want to move on to it's expedition travel. What
Right.
defines, what determines that it's an expedition travel?
Expedition travels are more some of the more I wouldn't say too active one, but more of the adventurous kind. So expedition if you're going to the Arctic to see the polar bears, so that would be an expedition
Okay.
travel. If you're going to the Galapagos to see, to sail around the islands and see the nature, that's an expedition. Safaris are expedition. There are a whole bunch of them, a lot of
Amazing.
different places around the world. They also have now Greenland is very popular. They have expedition
Yes.
travels to Greenland.
And Iceland.
So
I've had
yeah,
four
Iceland.
friends just in the last couple months go to Iceland and post the most extravagant, gorgeous nature pictures ever.
Yeah, Iceland is very popular. It's been popular for a while now, and it's such a beautiful country and so diverse in the nature. And you can go during the winter time, and it's beautiful at that time. And summertime, of course, you get those long daylight hours, and it's so beautiful down
Hmm.
there.
Nice, nice. Okay, so now I want to delve in a little bit more to you, the woman behind this wonderful travel. What are I hate to always say the top place you've ever traveled, maybe the top two or three, but what ones come to mind? What are really memorable places you have been to?
A couple of my favorite ones, you can tell I like kind of love nature, is our trip to the Galapagos.
That is a
Really
dream
love
tour.
that. We didn't do too long. I still have to go back because we didn't get to visit all the islands because each island is different. Each island has got its own unique wildlife, nature and animals and birds there. But that one is so pristine and so untouched. The animals and the birds are not afraid of you. They walk right up to you. You have to step back.
Wow.
So it's such a pretty beautiful place, and highly recommend that if anyone gets a chance to do that. The best way to
So,
do
so
this,
while we're on that one, before you go to your next one, explain to me what it would look like going there. So, are you on like a small cruise ship? Are you allowed onto the land, or are you just looking from a distance? I'm just curious
yeah.
how they're balancing the tourism but still protecting the land.
Right. It's yeah. The best way to see it is on a cruise. A cruise. They have smaller vessels. They have like from 16 passengers to about 1,000 passengers. They do have different
Okay.
size of vessels that where you can go at, but they do control the number of landings that they can do it at a given time. So you're not
Okay.
having a whole bunch of ships or yachts or anything at there at a particular time. So they have that schedule where they can only have, sometimes they even only like allow 100 people onto the island at a particular time. So
Okay.
that's the best way to see it, because you do get off, you have a naturalist guide with you, and
Okay.
you get off and you walk around the island, see the land, the landscape, the nature, the animals, the birds. And it's almost like you're the naturalist with you all along, really explaining to you everything that's happening around there. And it's a really
Okay.
educational.
Okay. That's fantastic. All right. So Galapagos is one of your top. What else? Or where
African
else?
safari.
African safari. Okay.
Yeah,
What is
yeah.
there a country that you think is really good to do a safari in?
If you want to see a big concentration of different types of animals, um, the Tanzania and Kenya in the East Africa is beautiful. They have you can see the big fire there, and if you go during the July, August to Kenya, Tanzania, you can see the migration where the animals migrate and they cross the rivers and big herds. And so
Nice.
that's a great time, but you can, it depends on which time of the year you want to go. If you go earlier during the year, you can see the calves and the babies being born. You can see those. So there's just different times of the year you can see different things. But then if you want to
Beautiful.
see a big herd, a lot of elephants, and then you can also see the big five there is in Botswana.
I was going to
So
say,
that
I have someone that just posted. I had in my Facebook group, the Fabulous at 50 Sisterhood, we had a post just saying, tell us where you've been that you think everyone should have an opportunity to go. What a beautiful, diverse um, suggestions that we had. And one of them, she talked about going to a safari in Botswana. She loved
Mhm.
it. Hands down, the best place she's ever been.
Yeah, yeah. And again, in both in East Africa as well as in South Africa and Botswana, you can get lodges from different ranges, right? You can get just, if somebody doesn't want to spend too much, you can find a really good lodge, which is basic, but it's got everything that you need. You could go up to luxury tented lodges,
Yeah,
spend
the
thousands of
glamping,
dollars a day to
the
do it. The
beautiful glamping.
glamping. Yeah,
Yeah, and you
beautiful.
help
So
host.
yeah. So
Amazing.
just depending on what you're able to do and your price point you want to keep it, we can always find something for you. And again, the safari is all inclusive, right? So everything in your safari would be included. Typically, how a safari would work is you would wake up super early in the morning, go out on a safari, because you have to go around the savannas to really see your wildlife. So the best
Of
time to do
course.
is when they're waking up and when they're coming out. So you do a couple of hours of safari, and then you come back, have breakfast, and then you relax and in the lodges in the resorts, and then you take an evening safari again. So typically you can do
Fantastic.
those two. There are some places where you can do a whole day safari because you may have to drive out too far. So there are different ways to do it, but that's typically how safaris are done.
Amazing. And so what I'm hearing is that so for a travel concierge, if someone wanted to take an amazing trip, they show up and then you start holding their hand saying, what's your budget? Where's your dream place? And you can, because I know for myself, sometimes it's just if I want to go somewhere, it's like I don't know what I don't know, right? Someone could
Hmm.
show up and
Hmm.
say, I want this in a trip. Maybe they don't even know the country, and you'd be able to say if you considered this country or this type of adventure. And
Yeah.
that's such a wonderful service. Now, have you noticed that people are traveling more in this last year? Has there been a
Yes, they
big,
are. Because they hadn't traveled for a few years, people are traveling more, longer trips, more of their bucket list trips,
right?
and it's very few of them. Especially when they're going on internationally, very few of them are just going for 5 days a week. It's usually 2 weeks, 3 weeks that they want to go and do it because they
Wow.
haven't been so long, and they want to go out and start exploring again.
All righty. Well, we only have
Mhm.
a couple moments left. I want to end with asking you what is on your bucket list? Where do you want to travel that you haven't yet traveled to?
Yeah, my bucket list, which I'm hoping to do next year, is Antarctica. That's the seventh
Hey,
continent we haven't been. We've been to everywhere else. So working on the planning of it right now. So hopefully by 2024, we should be able
that
to
is
do that.
fantastic. I do have friends. This family is amazing. They have two adult children, but they started this when they were younger. And every few years, they do a true this type of expedition type travel, the North Pole. They've done the Antarctica, Galapagos, I think, and just
Hmm.
I'm in awe of what they do, and they're not always for the faint of heart. Some of them are nice, easy trips, and others are like you have to be really prepared. So it's do your research
Yeah.
and get somebody like
Hmm.
you, having your back when you're traveling. So I'm going to put all of your contact information in the show notes. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, and I want to just clarify this. Obviously, you're based in the States, but
Hmm.
can you help anyone around the world take a trip? Like people don't have to live in the States to work with you. I understand.
No, no, they don't. Yeah, we have clients all over. They can do that.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for being on. I think we'll have to do a repeat performance at some point in time because you are such a wealth of information. And I'm so happy that you were here with us today. And everyone that is listening in or watching, I highly recommend that you go and check out your website. If I'm correct, you have quite a bit of little information and tidbits on your website as well.
Yes, we do. Hmm.
Excellent. And why don't you do a little plug? You have your own show.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Jen. Yeah, I started a show called Inspiring Life Journeys. And the whole purpose of that show was really to talk to everyday people in life, their journey in life, because I think life is a journey just like travel. You learn from your experiences, and everybody's got a story from the time they were growing up to the time they're now. So that's what we do. We just talk with people about their journeys and what they can share to the world.
Amazing, amazing. And I know you and I have plans for us to have a chat on that. So we'll
Yes, we
we'll meet
do.
up and do that soon. So I really appreciate that. Thanks for being here today and spread the word about Fabulous at 50 and our podcast, which is all about changing the aging narrative. Now today we didn't specifically talk about that, but I to me it's more the fact that we're just talking about travel and traveling at any age and how people are getting out there really is changing that narrative because
Mhm.
maybe we'll end. I'm going to extend this just for a minute more here.
Mhm.
um it used to be that people thought about cruises as like that was the gray haired cruise, right? Like you had to be over 50 or older in that, but that's not really what's happening these days. And for your adventures, it's
Mhm.
young and old and everybody's all mixed out. But do you have an interesting story about maybe the oldest person you've client you've had where you've planned a trip for them?
Yeah, yeah. We planned a trip actually it was to South America for a couple. They went with a smaller group, but it was a couple. They were in their mid 80s.
I love it.
And I was a little kind of concerned when they took them there because they had a lot of things which were, interesting things that they wanted to do. But they did it, and we made sure that everything went well. And yeah, so
It's
they had a good
fantastic.
time.
I personally think that anyone can travel anytime, But I think in our 50s, 60s, even in our 70s, like these are prime times. We have our life experience behind us. We often, we may be into a semi-retirement. It's just a time we can get out there and travel, but it doesn't have to be just the taking a vacation. A vacation is wonderful. I think that's amazing. We can take really interesting, safe adventure tours. And I love that you're offering this service. So thank you
Yeah.
again. We're going to make a second exit. Bye. Thanks for listening in, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. But before you leave, I'm curious. What pearl of wisdom are you taking away from today's episode? I do hope it held some inspiration or information for you to live your best life. If you are not yet part of our sisterhood, I invite you to join our community by visiting our website, fabulousat50.com, and you'll receive a free copy of our ebook, Make Mine Fabulous, 21 Ways to Energize Your Life. It is packed with loads of tips and tricks. Plus, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to this podcast and leave us a review to let us know what you think. Remember, keep choosing fabulous. It's never too late to live the life you deserve. Catch you on the next episode.